Life and Leadership Unfiltered, episode 11. Today's episode is a special one titled Ceremonies of the Soul, a Medicine Woman's Journey. I'm your host, Charlene Birk, and I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Deborah Chin. She left the safety and structure of the corporate world to follow a calling that led her deep into the jungles of Peru and Ecuador, where she immersed herself in the world of natural medicine, energy work, and ancestral healing. Have you ever thought about pivoting your career, completely stepping off the traditional path to chase a dream that others might not understand? That's exactly what Deborah did. In today's episode, she shares her personal healing journey, what it took to answer the call of her soul, and how she now helps others on their own paths to healing. You can find her on Instagram at Elevated Energy, which will link below. So let's dive in. Enjoy our show. Leave a comment, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram at Habitat for Leadership for more leadership nuggets. All right. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Charlene.
So I just want to share a little bit of my background, actually, and not my professional, personal background. This background, my photo background. This
It's
is
beautiful.
where I got married 8
Oh,
years ago, and in a circular ceremony, we're
wow.
in Shikshini Mountain. And oh my gosh, I feel like it's such an alignment of what we're about to talk about.
Yes.
In this beautiful wildflowers, and
Mm-hmm.
it was just a magical day. And I know that I'm going to have a magical day with you. I expect to
Yeah.
have a magical day with you.
Yes.
You are a magical person, Deborah.
Thank you.
So this is such a treat. You cannot believe who you're meeting today. So we're just going to get into it. So Deborah, can you share the story of what inspired you to transition from your previous life as a corporate person, previous life, to studying natural medicine, and what challenges did you face during that transformation?
Yes. Great question. So what led me to on this path to become a medicine woman is really just life challenges. Like everyone else, I experienced some real difficulties. The really big turning points were my mother had passed, and then my mother passed with pancreatic cancer. And then a year later, my brother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I became his caregiver. He moved in with me and I took care of him. We were very close. We had always been close. And I took care of him. He made it almost 2 years and he passed while he was sick. My brother talked a lot about things he wanted to live long enough to do. And one of those things was to drink ayahuasca in the jungle. And he he was, as it turns out, not able to able to do that in this lifetime. However, I told myself that we had so many discussions about it, and I had been interested in ayahuasca from years before. But after he passed, I was like, I want to go for both of us. I wanted to go to the jungle for both of us. And then after my brother passed, 4 months later, my dad passed. And that was just kind of the final thing where I was like, okay, I need to go because I was overworked, stressed out, not happy. And I was successful, but not happy and not feeling fulfilled. And I felt that there really had to be more to life than just working and not feeling fulfilled. And so I went in 2018, I went to Peru just for a 1 week ayahuasca retreat with 4 ceremonies. And from the first ceremony, my life was changed. I experienced what I was really looking for. I went in search of magic and I found it immediately. And my life was changed. And what I experienced in that ceremony, I got to talk to the ayahuasca plant and the spirit of ayahuasca. I was shown many things. I saw different energetic interdimensional beings and spirits. And what I experienced is what they sometimes like to call in the psychedelic community realer than real. It was so profound and so real that I knew that this is what I needed to do. I had always been a spiritual seeker. I spent years as a devout Buddhist, and I've studied different religions. So I was already on a spiritual path. But once I drank ayahuasca, I was like, okay, this is the real thing. And there was no intermediary like in traditional religion where there's church and there's a preacher and there's different people that you have to go through to access um, the healing and the learning. And this is direct experience. And so once I experienced that, I knew that there was really nothing else left for me in my corporate life. And so once I was done with the retreat, I was like, I want to go back and I want to study plant medicine in depth and really dedicate myself to it. Because again, so much of my family had died. I felt like I had nothing to lose. I knew I wasn't happy and there had to be more to life. And so it was a really easy decision for me. And actually what I would say is that the plants called me. They called to me. The spirits of the plants came to me and really almost I was compelled to go move to Peru because yeah, when I was leaving, people told me I was crazy. They were like, you're gonna regret this, don't do this, like,
So why were you called crazy? Tell us exactly what you did.
So what I did, yeah. So first of all, at the time that I went to Peru, I was at the end of a 5-year marriage that was not fulfilling. We just really weren't ultimately a good match, especially spiritually. And um, so by the time I got back from the retreat, I knew I needed to actually end the marriage, which was really hard because he was a great person, but it just wasn't a good match. So I needed to do that. And I also realized that to go to Peru, to move there and study plant medicine, I was going to have to quit my job, sell my house, get a divorce, all those things. And so magically, and this is I part of the magic of working with plant medicine and with the spirit world is all of that. And when I first got back, I felt the need to change my life. And my human brain was like, this is overwhelming. How do I even start with getting the divorce? How do I even do all these things? And yet somehow it all happened within a matter of 6 months from the time I got back. Everything. Got a divorce. Yeah, the divorce was the easiest. It happened from the time it took me a couple months to tell my husband that I was ready for the divorce. But when I did tell him, we were divorced within 3 weeks. And it was no contest divorce. It was the smoothest, friendliest divorce. We actually went and had a divorce ceremony together and threw our rings into the Everglades. Yeah. And then after that, I gave 3 months notice on my job. And because I'd been there for so long, it I was in they needed a lot of time to be able to find my replacement. I was actually interviewing potential replacements for myself because I'd been there so long. It's not a position people leave easily. And so I gave the 3 months notice. I quit my job. I got a realtor to handle the sale of my house, and I moved to Peru and dedicated myself to studying plant medicine in the Amazon, and didn't look back. Like
you, on my perspective, dropped out, just out of our.
I did.
What happened? You and I started to partner up in coaching, right?
Yes.
With Habitat for Leadership. We were starting to work together. This is when we went to school, study the getting our certification together.
Yes.
Started to work, and all of a sudden, where did she go?
Yeah, everyone thought I was crazy. And what I told people was nobody should do what I'm doing because you should only do it if you feel truly called. It's not a decision you can make with your logical brain. It's something that I was truly called to do. And because of that, I didn't have like an average person, which everyone around me was like, all they could focus on was the fears and the barriers to it. But because I felt so called, I didn't feel any fear at all about doing it. I felt compelled. I was like, this is my calling. This is what I need to do. There's nothing more important than this. What I say is that I went to the Amazon to dedicate my life to magic and plant medicine and natural healing. And so that's what I did. And it's changed my life and it's the best decision I ever made. So
It's so interesting too that your divorce went so smoothly. I
I
never
know.
heard of a divorce ceremony that you both grew your rings together. So he was really, even though you said you weren't spiritually aligned, but you were energetically aligned because like
There was no resistance. It was a
yeah,
miracle. Yeah.
it sounds like a miracle. So, besides the losses of your family, which I'm sure that's I can't even begin to try to understand the challenges. Was there any other challenges? And besides your friends saying you're crazy,
Yeah. I thought I was crazy. Well, I mean, really just it's funny because I didn't see anything as a challenge because I was so compelled. When you have that tunnel vision that there's this thing that you want and you are like so focused on getting there that whatever comes up doesn't feel like a challenge. It's just like a thing to deal with and manage on the way. But there was nothing that felt like a true deterrent. There was nothing that was going to change my mind. What I experienced was so real and so profound. I was like, this is the thing that I need to do. So I'm going to do it no matter what. And so there was a lot of work involved. I owned my own home. I had lived in that home for probably almost 10 years. And so there was a process of getting rid of my belongings, giving them away, packing up what I could to go to Peru, to ship it to Peru, and actually like, selling my home. And I'm grateful I did have support from some of my family in doing that because I did not sell my home before I left. I hired a realtor and I shipped my things, but the home was not sold until a couple months after I left. And so I was grateful to have the help of family just helping me finish off the final details, but nothing felt like a true obstacle or challenge because I was so committed that nothing was going to stop me. So I felt really good about it, and there was no hesitation or reluctance at all.
truly magical. That wow, just to me, wow. So, what has been your journey as a medicine woman been like so far, and how has it changed your perspective on health and healing?
I think the biggest thing that I learned, and it's what I've worked with different shaman, or as they call them in South America, like shaman is not a Spanish word. And so in South America, as Peru, they call the shaman maestros or maestras, which is just the Spanish word for teacher, because they are teachers. And so I worked with different maestros while I lived in Peru. And my favorite, the one that I'm closest to, is a woman, and her name is Olga Mori, and she's Shipibo or Shipiba Maestra, and she would always say, and it's one of my sayings. She says, "Con la medicina todo es posible," which is with the medicine everything is possible, and that is definitely my motto for working with medicine. That's the biggest thing that I've learned, that when without medicine, we can feel trapped by our surroundings, our settings, our limited beliefs. We're limited by our experience. It's hard to really see beyond that and to know that more is possible for us. But the medicine allows you to really to get beyond. You have access to information and experiences that are beyond this plane and beyond your history of habit, experiences, and pain and pleasure of being human. You can get beyond all of that with the medicine. And so that was the biggest thing that I learned, that anything is possible. And what what profound for me was just understanding the deep levels of healing. People So when I was in Peru, I was working with ayahuasca, but I've taken that knowledge of studying ayahuasca shamanism and brought it to other plant medicines. And so that now that I'm in the States. And so the thing about working with plant medicine is that you really build a relationship with the medicine, and you're able to progressively have deeper and deeper experiences and levels of healing. And many people that work in the plant medicine space would tell you that it's not a one-time thing. You you have one ceremony and it's profound and deep, but it's common to want to continue peeling back the layers because everything is layered. And I find that for myself. I have people to heal themselves, but at the same time, I'm also always working on healing myself. And every layer that I peel off reveals other things that I still want to work through. I had a therapist years ago that said, healing is never done. And I really believe that. As long as we're alive, we experience different things that we need to heal from and work through. And so healing is part of the human experience throughout our lifetime. And so that was also one of the things that I really learned in my time studying in the jungle, is just to understand that there's levels and layers to peel off when it comes to healing, and that it's okay to work with these medicines over a longer term if that's what someone feels called to do, because sometimes that's what's needed to remove the layers. You can't necessarily remove everything in one sitting. And the other thing that I really learned is the big difference that integrity makes with plant medicine work. There are charlatans, there are people who are working with medicine and not in a place of integrity, and they're not in integrity with the medicine and in integrity with themselves. The reasons they're working with the medicine, what the relationship is to the medicine, all those things, and really treating it as a sacred, like, sacrament. And so I've learned that the power of the ceremony is very much related to the integrity of the person that's leading and guiding the ceremony. Because if that person, and I've saw it in the jungle and it happens here in the States too, if the person leading the ceremony does not have integrity, you can have all different kinds of experiences that may not be the healing experience that you're looking for. May not necessarily be bad, but it's just that you're not necessarily going to get everything you could out of the healing experience and the ceremony, because if the person is not in integrity and not really honoring the medicine as a sacred sacrament, it's a different experience. People take plant medicine here in the States, and there are people who do it recreationally. And that's one kind of experience. And I make no judgment about how people use it, but it's very different. Intention is everything. Set and setting is everything, and the person guiding is everything. So people can take plant medicine and have a recreational and social experience, or they can really create space for healing and a sacred experience. And that is a completely different animal. I've talked to many people who have said that they experienced plant medicine, and they were hanging out with their friends and it was just like a night out, or they walked through the woods, and all of that's good, but it's very different than actually having a ceremonial and sacred experience. Completely different. When you have a ceremonial experience, you're really bringing in healing, because you're setting an intention, you're working with that intention, and you're calling in spiritual help to help you to work towards your intentions. So, that's my time in the jungle really taught me just the importance of integrity and really bringing that to what I do. And just also understanding that, the other thing that we like to say in the jungle is trust the medicine. Like, there's people have all kinds of fears, hangups, worries. And we always say that the medicine gives us what we need. So, we may have our ideas of how we want things to go, but in that moment, the medicine itself will show up how we need it and give us what we need, what the kind of experience we need for the healing that we desire.
When we're paying attention.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It is really important to be conscious and aware and really actually really set an intention and put energy behind it in order to have the healing experience. That's very much, the medicine is opens a door to healing, but we're really responsible for our healing in the sense that we have to commit to it energetically and really want it and focus on it and make it a priority in order for it to happen. And that's why you can have a recreational experience with plant medicine and it's not healing, but then you can have a ceremonial experience and it is actually healing.
So a lot of what you just shared, I can really draw a direct line to. So as a leadership coach, right? I'm always encouraging the leaders that I coach, like, part of your identity needs to be leadership integrity, right? As your identity, because it's so important. And that intentional practice and the consciousness practice that you put into influence and others is so important. right? It's so super important. See, there's charlatans out there.
Yeah, yeah,
Similarly, not just medicine people, but leaders or charlatans who,
yeah,
are in it for themselves, leading without integrity, I've not really met anyone who's not experienced that, because the guy coach really takes integrity as part of their leadership identity,
mm,
and really reflect on that. And I can see, obviously there's no ceremonial anything, but the intentionality of it is
yeah,
just so similar. There's a huge responsibility as a leader when you're leading other people and their
yeah.
development, and we spend so much time at work. And so it's so
Hmm.
important that leaders have this integrity as one of their pillars in leading. And so I can see that as a medicine woman, that's really important. And it's so good for me to hear. It's so good for me to hear. I mean, I've known you for a while, like 8 years today. I mean, we went to school together in our coaching
Yes,
together. So I believe in you so much. I am one of your biggest fan, and
thank
just
you.
can't wait. I just can't wait to experience this. Because I
It,
have some healing that I want to intentionally address. And so in your practice, what has been the most rewarding experience or moment that has affirmed your decision to pursue this particular path, Deborah?
oh my gosh. Well, there's a few different things. On a personal level, it's that through my medicine work, my plant medicine work and the healing work, I have really I've actually developed relationships with my spirit guides. And so I can actually, I had a friend say to me that she was kind of like jealous that I had guides because she had a really tough time making decisions. She dealt with a lot of anxiety and she felt like she never knew the right thing to do. She second guessed herself and would often have like the analysis paralysis and just unable to actually um, execute things because of her uncertainty. And so I think working with plant medicine can give you a level of clarity that allows you to be able to get clear on what you want and what the right decisions are. And so for me, that has come with my plant medicine work. In addition to, I've actually really built relationships with my spirit guides, of which there are many. And I messages about what to do and when to do it. And I listen to it. I listen to those messages and it's taken me um it's taken me a while because at first when you start getting you really you sometimes what you're guided to do is impractical. It's always for my highest good, but sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I don't want to do it. Sometimes doing the right thing might hurt somebody's feelings or make someone else uncomfortable. And so there's, as a human being, the challenge of dealing with those emotions and those challenges in order to be in integrity. But that's one of the things that has come through my medicine work is really having the guidance from the spirit world. And then the other thing that's been really rewarding is seeing people change, seeing people feel better, feel relief. It's, I can't say that it's like a for your life in the sense that it's going to solve all your problems. But when you enter into ceremony with an intention, you're almost always going to get some relief around whatever it is that you're seeking help with. And sometimes, oftentimes, you also get surprises, bonus surprises where, the medicine, if you're really committed and open to working with it, it will also reveal things to you that you hadn't even thought of, help you make connections between different things in your life to understand yourself better, the world around you better, and help you to transform in the ways that you actually want to. Because one of the things that I've learned through medicine is that the the man connects you to and this is all going to sound pretty esoteric, but I am not going to water it down to make it sound like more acceptable because it's the space I live in. So, um, one of the things that happens is the medicine opens a space for you to access energies that are beyond this dimension and therefore access knowledge and experiences and perspective that you might not otherwise have. And as I was saying in the beginning, as human beings, we're so limited by our beliefs and our experiences, and that's how we get trapped. And it can be so difficult to make changes and improve because we can't see past it. When you work with these plant medicines, you have the opportunity to get beyond yourself. And that's when you get into a space where you can see things for what they really are. You can have true clarity. You can also, it's possible with the medicine to be able to become less attached to outcomes, to have a greater understanding of your place in the universe and what role you want to play in the world and who you want to show up as in your life. Like it gives you all those things. Like it has the potential to give you all that clarity. If so, I can never predict what's going to happen in a ceremony, but in general, people have healing experiences like that when they come to ceremony with the intentions. And so that's been just seeing people improve their lives and get relief from things like depression. A lot of people have worked with plant medicine for depression, anxiety, making life decisions, feeling, finding purpose, things like that. Like it really is great for that because it basically the one way to think about it is that the medicine allows you to tap into such high frequency energy that you're able to see your life situations from a different perspective and be able to get guidance on choosing and doing the best possible things for yourself that are going to result in your highest good. And that's what the medicine actually wants for us. And the energies connected to the medicine, they really, I don't know why, but they really want us to be our best selves. Like this is their purpose. And so by working with the medicine, we make that possible. And that's why I love sharing the medicine because they need to share it. My guides want me to share the medicine with people because the more that each of us can heal, then the world becomes a better place because the healing starts with ourselves. And so by helping one person heal, it's helping the world to become a better place. And it's profound. Yeah.
Yeah. And the impact of that when you heal one, right? Because then they interact with the rest of the world, right?
Yeah,
So you
exactly.
talk about larger perspective, you talk about experiences that you don't necessarily have access to or limited to, but all about the wisdom, right? That we have this inner wisdom that sometimes
Yes.
we block because of fear.
Yes.
I once in a while I have this access to great wisdom that this is what I need to do, but that other narrative part of me that what if it doesn't work out? What if it's
Yes.
like the fear and the anxiety creeps in, right? So that becomes attached to the outcome. And so honestly, I want to experience in a way to detach myself from the outcome so I can serve in the best possible way that I can. And I feel like, there are moments in time like I can do this, I can serve in a much greater way. And then the other part of me like speaking like, you can't do this right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who do you think you are right now?
Yep.
Yeah. So I do want to get over some of the anxiety, and I know, I don't have to conquer the world, but I would like to be able to exercise or do the things that I really like, part of me that's really called up to do, but I'm just afraid.
Yeah.
There's that fear. And so
Yes.
thing that I would want to really deal with. Thank you for sharing that, Deborah. Could you describe any specific cases or experience where you witnessed a significant healing, transformation in your clients that made your work feel truly worthwhile?
Yes. Recently I worked with a client who had extreme anxiety and she was really suffering. She had trouble sleeping at night and just in general anxiety about everything. She's a natural worrier. Little things became big things for her. They kept her up at night. She had a really difficult time making decisions about even small things. because she just constantly second guessed herself, and so much of the fear would creep in, and the fear really clouds your judgment, and it makes it difficult to really do what you might even know is the right thing to do, because you're just afraid. What if things go wrong? What if things don't work out? And so she had been dealing with a lot of that, and she was really interested in a ceremony to work through her depression and see if she could get some relief from it. And so we only did one ceremony, which was so powerful. It was life-changing for her. She had never worked with plant medicine before. She didn't know what to expect. So I prepped her. We had discussions, conversations, what she was looking for, what her intention was, as well as what to expect in ceremony, and how it would go. I like to take an approach of it's really customizing the ceremonial experience to the person's needs, especially in the sense of when from the perspective of being trauma informed. We've all experienced different traumas, and so it's really valuable to be able to take that into consideration in terms of designing a ceremonial experience, because when I studied in the jungle, it is not trauma informed. It's you show up, you do things the maestro's way, and it works there. It works in the jungle. But here in North American life, we're under a lot of stress. We're living a different kind of life. We're under constant stress, dealing with people, responsibilities, and we have traumas. And so if we're going to enter into this space, this medicinal and ceremonial space, it requires us to be open, vulnerable, and which are challenges for people. And so it's really important, in order to enter that space, to really be able to just take the time to connect with the guide, and really be mindful about the space that we're creating. And so this woman, like, we did a lot of preparation around the ceremony. And when the ceremony time came, she was nervous, but our ceremony, and it was a one-on-one ceremony. It was just me and her. And, without saying what her actual experience was during the ceremony, she was blown away. By the end, she had never experienced anything like this. She had never worked with plant medicine. And, I never know how it really going to go, but it generally goes well if people are really wanting the experience to be ceremonial and they really want the healing. And she got all this unexpected information that she wasn't expecting through the ceremony that really helped her. And this is where the magic is, because I feel like in ceremony, you get visions, you get messages, you get information. How that becomes something that's healing is magic to me. Because just I see something or become aware of an idea or something like that in the ceremony, if that happened in my everyday life, that may not necessarily be a transformational thing. But somehow in this ceremonial space, having those awarenesses becomes a change in consciousness. And so when she came out of the ceremony, like, she was, first of all, just floored by the experience. It was so magical and transformative for her. But then she wasn't sure how this is going to like manifest in her life, how it's going to, what she received, the new perspective she received, how it's going to be integrated into her everyday life. But she set an intention around that. She made it a point to really try to incorporate. She didn't want to lose what she got in the ceremony. So she really set an intention around that and started to spend more time with spiritual practices and meditation, so that she could anchor in the changes that she felt. And so she like experienced, from my perspective, probably, and she said it's hard for her to tell because it's all happening to her, but probably I would say like a 70% reduction in her anxiety. She was very anxious. It was uncomfortable for her. And now, like, yes, she still experiences anxiety, but it's not debilitating. And on top of that, she feels really connected to the collective consciousness, the universe, spirits, God, however you want to call it. And she feels connected to it in a way that she had never experienced before. And that has given her a level of peace and security that there is a higher power at work in her life, and the safety of that there is a higher power that actually wants the best for her. And that all she has to do is tune in through meditation and listen to that and execute what the messages she receives. And so she no longer like debilitated by her depression. And like I said, she does still experience it, but it's at a much lower level. And it's a healthy level now where it's not interfering with her life. And she is interested in doing another ceremony because she wants to peel back more layers. But it's been one of the more recent like transformations that I've seen. And yeah, it's what's so powerful about this work is that it's not me creating the change. It's the person working with the medicine, and I host for them to experience the change. I create space for them to experience the change. And I also am creating space for these really high vibration energies to come in and help us to create the change that we want. And even if you don't believe in any of that, the change can still happen. Like plenty of people don't like, and woman, she was a real skeptic about the spirit world before she started. And now she feels so connected to it because whether or not you believe it, you'll feel it. It's undeniable. It's real. And so you don't even have to use your logical brain to grasp it. The transformation can happen regardless. And so yeah, it's wonderful to see people heal and get relief because as someone who's experienced trauma, had all kinds of life difficulties, I know how much the pain of those things can hold us back and how we can just set self-limiting beliefs. And so when we're able to get past that, we can experience new levels of growth and happiness and fulfillment and purpose. And so as I've always been in helping professions, I used to be in foster care work. I used to work for children and families. I used to work for suicide hotline. I used to work with people with disabilities. So I understand the different kinds of pain people go through, and getting to see people heal is really gratifying. And it's what the medicine and my guides want me to do because people are suffering unnecessarily. And there is relief. And yes, there's regular therapy and all those things, but they are not necessarily able to really touch and change some of the things that people are dealing with that are so intangible, illogical. It's the plant medicine that has the ability to get beyond our blocks and help us transform.
It makes me think to really connecting with your magical self, right?
Yes.
We
Yes.
forget we're 1 in 300 trillion unique, unless of course you're a twin or triplets or
Yeah.
quadruplets. But we really are unique. Our body is a mechanical thing that's
Mhm.
self-healing. And because of trauma and things, we kind of disconnect from our true being, our in
Yes.
courage and in wisdom, and because in coaching, again, I bring up coaching is that we're whole, complete, and creative, right? And we forget
Yeah.
that we feel like we're broken.
Yes.
It doesn't break us. It's an experience. We're still that same whole person, but we feel broken, and we kind of operate in this broken approach. It sounds like when you go through this medicine, it connects back to that magical self, which I really want to connect.
Yes.
I understand it theoretically. I coach on different aspects of what you mentioned. It is hard work. It is
Yeah.
hard to that baggage down, a broken part of us, that fear, that anxiety. It's really of our decision making, and that's why I'm so excited. I'm so super excited to experience it.
Yeah. I was
Yes.
going to say, so many people say that ceremony and the plant medicine helps them to access their higher self, the self that doesn't have the fear and doesn't have all the pain, the limitations. And so, like, again, regardless of whether or not you believe in the spirit world or anything, many people feel like the plant medicine helps them access their higher self so that they can start living their life from a place of the highest good that's really possible for them. And that's a totally different level of living. And it's powerful.
Well, how do you see the role of medicine woman evolving in today's society, and what messages would you like to share with those interested in pursuing this natural healing path?
Yeah, so I think as a medicine woman, I think what's been lost in modern life is, we're we focus much on achievement and ambition, which are important. It's great to have goals, and we need great people to help change the world and make things better. But it's become common for us to lose touch with the divine, or the sacredness of life and our higher self. And so I think that by working with medicine, that's been one of the things that I've noticed, is just being able to really access that.
How do you see the role of medicine woman evolving
Okay.
in today's society? And like that's the first part. And what message would you like to share with those interested, maybe hesitant in pursuing this,
Okay.
natural healing?
Okay. Yeah, I really see the role of medicine woman as helping people to get back in touch with the divine, or with their higher self. And that's going to allow them to live better, happier, more purposeful, joyous, peaceful, loving lives. And, for people that are interested in a natural healing path, I think the most important thing is to focus on your spiritual growth, make it a priority. I think that was one of the things for me was, we have different things we do every day as part of our personal hygiene, or our mental hygiene, and we brush our teeth, we take a shower, we do all these things. And one of my sayings has been, spiritual growth comes from a spiritual place. Like, you actually have to invest energy in your spiritual growth if you actually want to go down that path. And
Spiritual
so,
hygiene. Oh, wow.
yes, yeah. So you actually need to spend time. If you want to go down this path, and honestly, even if you're not trying to go deep on on a healing path, just for your own personal benefit and growth, it's really your benefit to spend time, to dedicate time every day to your spirituality. I feel that as a medicine woman, what I do is help people connect to the divine and experience the sacred in everyday life. And so one of the ways that an individual can further that is by actually making the time and committing to, whether it's meditation, it could be mindful walks. Like, there's no one right way to do it. Everybody is wired differently and responds differently to different types of experiences. You can experiment and find what works for you, but actually just making the time to connect. So I do traditional, like, silent meditation, but I will also do walking meditation. And sometimes I'm like doing chores and talking to my guides. Like, there's no one right way to do it, but you actually do need to, like, carve out space in your life to connect on a spiritual level if you want to go down this path, because there has to be room for it. You can't just go about your everyday and then think that, like, once a month you're gonna, like, try to connect with spirits, or the spirit, or the universe, or God, or your higher self, whatever it is that you want to call it, and think that you can really make any progress that way. You really have to carve out time. And the more that you carve out time and put energy into that, it can also be journaling, self-reflection, things like that. The more that you do that, you're going to really reap the benefits. And it's essential for working in this kind of space. But it's also, to me, essential for living life without feeling completely drained and burnt out, and to feel on purpose. I think that just being able to experience the medicine and the healing that comes from it really helps people to live their best life. And so for myself, as somebody who is a medicine woman, daily practices are a part of my routine, and are a part of my routine. And so I really got to the point where I was like, especially once I came back to the States last year, I really had to make it a priority. Like, there's so many demands on our time, so many other things we could be doing, but simply making space for it has kept it, because for me, it is my highest priority. My spiritual work is my highest priority. And so I have to treat it like that. Like, sometimes you might skip a workout, and, that's okay, but I'm never skipping 2 workouts in a row. And so for me, that's what my spiritual and my personal spiritual work is. I have to stay connected on a daily basis, so that when I go into ceremony, when I'm in a position to help other people heal, that connection is there and it's strong, so that I can help support people and call in the healing energy that people need to work with whatever their intention is.
Amazing. It makes me think about my own routine actually when I'm home every day, every weekdays. My way of connecting with the universe, really going outside. I'm lucky that there's a lot of trees here where I am. So when I go outside, I look at the trees and I'm so connected and that, everything's okay, that I don't have to have anxiety, that I can trust that the world, the sun rises and sets at a perfect amount of time. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about like the trees giving us the oxygen. It just naturally does this thing and the birds singing and I sense of peace. I don't worry, right?
Yes.
I'm part of this world. I'm part of the universe that's like perfectly in alignment and doing things. And so I really do that time, although when I to traveling, I kind of fall off that routine. I'm glad you brought it up because like I get, it is really peaceful and I feel like that is my spiritual kind of practice, even though I never really called it that until now. It's just me connecting with the universe. Tell us, how long were you at that Amazon?
So I lived in Peru for 4 years, and I was mostly in the Amazon with the Shipibo tribe, which are really considered the masters of ayahuasca. There are many tribes in South America and in the Amazon that work with ayahuasca, but the Shipibo are really the only tribe that have built their whole culture around it. And so they are true teachers of the medicine. Like their whole culture is built on ayahuasca. So I with a few different maestros in the jungle, but the one that I really built the closest relationship and who I felt really had the most in me, and who was she was such a purist that I really connected to her. So yeah, I really enjoyed getting the opportunity to work with her and learn from her. And so I spent more time in the jungle, but I also spent time in the Andes Mountains in the area around Cusco and the Sacred Valley. And there I worked with another plant called the San Pedro cactus or Wachuma and learned how to go and harvest the cactus, process it, cook it, all those things. And so that's another plant medicine that's very powerful, but different, very different from ayahuasca. And so, yeah, no, what I would do is I would like be in the jungle and the rainy season would come. And so sometimes during rainy season, I would go to the Andes where it's quite dry. In the rainy season in the jungle, everything floods. And so where there was a street, now you need a boat. And so, yeah, so that's why everybody's house is on stilts because when the rainy season comes, there's no more road. And so I went back and forth between the jungle and the Andes, studying both plant medicines. But my most intense study was really with ayahuasca and the Shipibo shaman in Peru, the Amazon. Yeah, and so I through that time I was also able to study many other plants and have different experiences. Yeah, it was really transformative and really so much of the wisdom of the Shipibo comes from, they live in the jungle and they don't have access to other medicine. There's nothing else there. And so they rely on the plants for healing and they know the plants and they know what heals what. And ayahuasca is considered the master plant. It is considered the plant that connects us to the earth and to our divine consciousness. And so, yeah, I lived in very rural and rustic circumstances most of the time, but then sometimes I would take a break from my medicine work and stay in an actual place that wasn't in the jungle. But it was dedication. It's uncomfortable. While I was there, I developed a real love and fascination for insects because there's so many insects in the jungle. I often felt like I was living in a Planet Earth documentary because I walk outside and there are leafcutter ants everywhere with their leaves walking across the ground, and there's everywhere, bats, owls, all kinds of animals, amazing tropical birds. And my favorite is the Peruvian blue morpho, which is a beautiful iridescent blue butterfly that is native to Peru, and really considered very auspicious when you see it and get to interact with it. And so I had the opportunity to be in some really remote places and experience the nature of the profound healing of just being in nature. And like you talked about being in nature and how that's your spiritual practice. It is a spiritual practice. It does help connect us. It reminds us that we're part of greater, and that there's a rhythm to life that is different than the rhythm of the corporate world, and if we can tune into that, we can relax into it and let go of so many of our fears and limitations. So getting to be in the rural environments really made a huge difference. I think it for studying plant medicine, because I was with the medicine where it comes from, where it grows. And I definitely feel the experiences are more powerful there because of that. But thankfully, I've been able to take what I've learned and bring it back to the States and be able to share it with people through other plant medicines.
So beautiful. I could listen to the stories. I feel like there's a campfire and you're listening.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, that would be awesome.
So, Deborah, you did mention charlatans. How can we avoid? Like, how do we identify charlatans?
Yeah, there's a couple ways. One is, when possible, you try to get references. You try to talk to people who may have worked with a particular person so that you can understand whether or not how they operate. I find that can be really tough sometimes, because if you don't know anything about the medicine space or ceremonial work, it's hard for you to know if the person you're talking to is good or not, or has experience. I don't think there's any
snake oil.
Exactly. I don't think there's any one, people talk so much about lineage and finding someone who is by, a particular person, and those things can be helpful, but that's not a guarantee at all. And it's really about, I think, which can be difficult for people to do. In addition to getting references, I think it's really important to tune into your intuition. I think that in modern life, we've been really taught to trust authority. And if somebody seems like an authority, that automatically we should trust them. But I think it's really important to really tune into your own intuition to determine whether or not, do you have questions about this person? Is there anything they said that doesn't seem right? Do they seem like they might be rushing through some parts or oversimplifying things or things like that? I think you have to really trust your intuition, because when someone is not operating in integrity, there is a frequency to that. And you can feel that if you tune into it, but it's not always easy to tune into. And the other thing is just anybody that makes you feel unsafe. And it's not necessarily unsafe in a physical way, but unsafe in the sense that you don't feel like you can be vulnerable, that you can relax, that you can share everything that you might want to share. There's judgments and criticism, because in my spiritual work, there's really no room for that. That we all have many facets to our being, and you really want to work with someone that can understand that and make space for you as a whole person, with your great qualities and your strengths and your personal power, but also with your challenges and your vulnerabilities. And so you really want to look for somebody that's an energetic match for you, and somebody that you can truly connect to, and that really creates that safe space where you know that you can say anything and it's going to be okay. You're not going to be judged for it. That's really important, because you're going to enter into a vulnerable space, and you need that vulnerability in order to heal. You have to be able to let down your guard. So you need to work with someone that you feel that level of safety and authenticity and integrity in order to be able to let down your guard.
Yes, yes. So now connecting intuitively. So if you feel like there's some kind of weird things going on, you expect something, listen to that. Rely, trust yourself, right? Trust your things and not distance yourself. Yeah. No, I think that's really good. Yeah. Getting back to trusting your own instinct, trusting yourself. So yeah. So
I was going to say that one of the things that I've learned through my spiritual work is that so much of the guidance that comes from our higher self or from the divine is through intuition. So I used to deny my intuition. I would ignore it because it wasn't logical, things like that. And you just have to start really testing it. Test it. You have an intuition about something, test it and see what happens. And yeah, when you do that, you're able to really tap into that higher consciousness and make better decisions and
Yeah.
discern whether or
Yeah.
not somebody is really authentic. Yeah.
I often ask, is this really your intuition or is this just a bad habit reaction?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
really know the difference. So chase that curiosity
Yes.
and see what comes of it, right? Because sometimes we think it's intuition, but it's just really a habituated way of dealing with things. And
It's true.
not necessarily. So I always tell people, like, is this, really, really follow that. For all the things that you've shared, this is actually part one because this is pre, and we're gonna have another conversation. I'll share part two, like some of the things, some parts of the ceremony, or I might not. But we will definitely talk about after my own experience because I do
Yes.
plan to have a ceremony with you. I trust you. I've known you, so I think people should really reach out to you. If they're interested and talk to you, I think you're more than happy to answer questions as you have
Definitely.
in this conversation. So I feel excited to have this experience with you. Thank you so much, Deborah, medicine woman.
Yes.
And I really look forward to the ceremony. Hopefully some of my friends will be able to join me and then we can debrief, post, and talk about that part too. Is there anything you add or I should have asked that's important for people to know?
Just that if you're going to enter into ceremonial healing work, just to really think about your intention, focus on it, and really do your best to show up in the most authentic and vulnerable way that you can. Because I think the hardest, when I see people have challenging experiences in ceremony, it's because they're afraid of letting go, which is very common. And so I do a guided meditation on surrendering and within the ceremony as we take the medicine and we're waiting for the medicine to start working. I do a guided meditation around surrendering, but that's probably the thing. And so I often encourage people to practice some silent meditation in preparation for ceremony, because it really helps you to learn to just sit and be with the thoughts, the things that come up, because that's the skill that you need in the ceremonial space, is to just be with whatever comes up so that you can receive the messages and the healing that are coming.
That really resonates with me because I personally don't like, for example, drinking alcohol because it makes me lose control. Like I don't even know who that person is.
Yeah.
So I don't like drinking because I like to like really awake and be in control. So that's, I think, part of the thing again, like what for a long time why I didn't consider it, but now I'm more open, like really connecting with a spiritual wisdom in me, that because the anxiety that stood in my way in order for me to really express what I want to do in this world while I'm still alive. So,
Yes.
and so I feel like you and I are really, I was been waiting for you my whole life, Deborah.
Me too. It's perfect. It's meant to.
So that I can be more me. Like it's interesting meeting you so I can be more me of what I aspire, right? And so that I am more bold, less anxiety, and I can do the things that I do while still alive.
Exactly.
Right. And so there's no guarantee in life, and this is not trite that might be, but it's really meaningful to me to be able
It is.
Sometimes I give up, like, I'll forget it. I should just be grateful with what I've done. I feel like I've changed a lot of people's lives. I'm pretty happy. And, I've often thought to myself, like, if I do nothing else and I just pass on, like, I'm pretty satisfied. I've really dedicated life to serving others. And I feel like I've really did the best that I could, right? For other people. And obviously there's more improvements. I can do more and stuff like that. But I'm quite satisfied. And so
Yeah,
I feel fulfilled at that. But I know that I'm still alive. There's that level that I could level up. And I
absolutely.
know, and I feel like with you, I might be able to have that access to be able to do that. Who knows?
Yeah.
So we shall see part 2
Yes.
of this conversation. Thank you so much for your time, Deborah. I really appreciate you and look forward to seeing you in person because it's been.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to medicine with you. Thank you for talking to me and letting me share this work.
Thank you, and connect Deborah, or comment below. We'll have her information below. All right, until next time, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned something.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.